What is up, guys? Another week, another video cast. We got Alex Nadolski up here. Got him out of the house on lockdown.
My first one of the year. Been cooped up with the whole coronavirus as everyone else, but finally back up to the Rise headquarters, and we're busting out some videos today.
Oh, I just took a big drink of beer. Sorry about that. This video today, I think we're going to really dive in on some food plot strategies, hunting food plots, and that type of stuff. This time of year seems like that's kind of like the topic. In between, turkey season and deer season, it's just a ton of habitat work. That's kind of what's going on right now. So people that are wanting to plant food plots, we're going to go over a little bit of some different things they can plant, when to spray your food plots, when to, use Roundup, herbicides, that type of stuff. That's kind of some stuff we want to dive into today, maybe be able to help some people out that are interested in planting food plots, or maybe just like a freshen up on it.
Yeah, like Tyler said, food plots are huge these days, and it is that time of the year where everyone's kind of giving up on turkey season, and everyone's starting to think about fall and velvet bucks. So it's time to start getting that ground worked up and get ready for your plots. It really depends on what you're looking to do. If you're trying to plant something early in the spring, I myself do a lot of fall planting, but I do start my fall planting in April and May and start getting the ground turned up.
Yeah, definitely. There's so we'll just kick it off here. There's a couple different things you can plant. Whether it's an annual or a perennial, and basically the difference is an annual is that for that season, and then it's dead. It's not growing back next year. It's one and done. A perennial is like a clover, a chicory, I think an alfalfa, that type of stuff that's gonna grow just like grass in your yard. It's gonna come back every single year. So a lot of guys who are on a budget or have to rent a tractor or something like that tend to go towards a perennial. That way they can plant it once. And I know guys that have 7-year-old clover plots.
Yep.
I mean, literally 7 years old, still hunting over the same clover plots. In Michigan where we hunt, I don't think clover is super attractive, but I'd rather hunt over clover than nothing.
Right, and I'm the same way. I've planted clover before. It seems to be huge in the spring. It's the first thing that really gets to be green in the woods, and the deer get on it quick. But when you talk to hunting wise, I really never had much luck over clover in the fall. Spring, it's great though. Gets their antlers growing, gets some nutrition. But I'd really prefer to do a little bit more fall food plots.
Yep. With that being said, what's pretty crazy is I put my whole farm I don't know. I probably put 2.5 acres in clover 3-4 years ago, and it took me like 2 years. Clover grows really slow. It takes a long time to get going, and then once it is going, maintaining it, keeping the weeds out of it, spraying it, trying to keep it going and growing. You got to mow it 2 times a year. I put my whole farm into clover, and I wasn't seeing the results I expected to see out of it. And I have a tractor, so I can plant anything I want. So I just recently switched everything over to beans last year, but what I was getting at is Nick in Missouri last year killed a big buck in January over a clover field. I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like out west in the Midwestern states, maybe even Ohio, clover is just so much more attractive out west compared to Michigan. And I don't know if it's because we just have so much native clover growing naturally. Like, you know what I mean? Think about you're walking through the woods. Oh, there's clover, there's clover, there's clover. You seem to see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So planting it, it's not like the biggest attraction. I heard a lot of people talk about plant what the deer don't have, and that's what's going to be the most attractive. So for us, we have so much clover already. Planting it's not a huge benefit to those deer. That's just my opinion. That could be very wrong.
No, I agree with you. That's where beans help out, corn helps out. If you think about the Midwest where you're saying clover is highly attractive, they have way more beans and corn than we have here. We have more clover and we have less beans and corn, so that's why they're not hitting as hard as what they would do in other states.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. So yeah, what are you doing? Any food plots this year, or down at Cameron's he doing food plots, or what do you got in mind for this year?
We kind of talked about it. Normally I do have a lot of food plots. I normally already have them started by this time of the year.
Yeah.
Corona has affected that. Kind of pushed my wedding back a few months,
sucks.
So I haven't been able to get ahead of the game as I normally am. But yeah, Cameron and I will be hunting down there with him again this fall. We have talked. We might be tossing in a little bit of food plot. He's got a lot of crops, a lot of corn, a lot of beans again.
Cool.
But along the edge, I was trying to talk to him, get a little bit more green on the very edge of the woods. That way, when they come out, maybe they'll stop through there, get a little bit more time, and can get a shot off before they go head right into the bean field or the cornfield.
Nice.
But yeah, normally this time of year, I already have my plots tilled up. I like to till my fall food plots in April or May. get all the grasses out of there, and then kind of letting that new growth come back. That way, then a couple months later, I'll go back down and spray them and kill everything out.
So, like when you're doing your annual plots, what were you saying? Like July is when you like to go in and hit them with some Roundup?
Yep. July, I like to spray them. Like I said, May-ish, I'll get down there, till it all, turn the dirt up, and then let everything grow back. And about early July, late July at the latest, I'll go down and spray. After I spray, I like to give it 3 to 4 weeks. Just time just for let the spray kill everything out. I don't also want to plant right after in case the spray kills my seed. So I like to just give a little buffer there. But yeah, by mid-July, all my plants or all my food plots are sprayed with weed killer.
Okay, so basically your annuals, you're going to go in May, you're going to rototill it up, and the reason you're doing that is just to keep the ground soft. So you're keeping the ground soft, and you're going to come back in like July, you're going to spray it. You're going to spray it with Roundup. And basically what that is, it's going to kill all the weeds that are on top of the ground. Everything that's growing, the Roundup's just going to wipe it right out. And you want to give it time. Like you said, 3 weeks minimum or something, 2 to 3 weeks. Let all that shit die. Let it all be completely dead. That way when you go in to plant, when you plant the food plot, when you go rototill it in again, and you plant your seeds, there's no competition for that seed to grow. You know, because if you don't Roundup it and you just till it, yeah, it looks like you got a big luscious dirt field, but as soon as you put your seeds there, the grass that you rototilled in the ground is trying to compete with your food plot seed.
Yep.
So it's so important to take that step to go in and spray it, kill everything, let it sit, everything's dead, rototill it, seed it, and then we cultipack it, plant it, or vice versa, whatever.
Yep, just like you said, after I spray it, give it 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll go and I'll actually hit it with a disc again. I want to get that dirt softened up a little bit more. And then after we disc it, then we'll get that seed down and then give it a good cult packing.
Yep, that definitely does it. So what's funny is the last couple years I've been really trying to get good at planting beans and corn. Just around me, like I said, there's not a lot of beans or corn, so that's what I like to plant. And it's the complete opposite when you're planting those type of crops. In the past years, the last 5, 7, 10 years I've been doing food plots, I would go in, like we said, in July, and I would spray the soil, kill all the weeds, and try to have a weed-free plot before I planted. Well, beans and corn is the complete opposite. Like, I just planted beans in my backyard, and my backyard's all grass. What I did is I rototilled the crap out of it, planted my beans, packed over it, and it's funny because I'm not even going to spray it with Roundup until it's about knee-high. And that's Roundup-ready beans. So if you spray on the soybeans that are already growing, they're going to be 8 inches to a foot tall. It won't kill those beans.
Yeah, that's the key is the Roundup-ready soybeans right there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're competing with weeds, and it kills your plant. It doesn't give the true nutrition it needs, and it's not going to grow to the full size.
Yeah, it's funny, like I said, because before I was like, all right, I got to have a weed-free plot before I can plant. And now it's like, I don't need a weed-free plot. Just rototill it, make it dirt, plant it. Once it's growing, it's 8 to 10 inches high, come back, spray it with Roundup. All that grass, which is actually good to have in a soybean field that's growing because it's so much moisture, that plant's actually going to grow a little bit better with all those weeds. And then when you spray it with Roundup, all those weeds lay right down, and it's actually creating more moisture and makes the soil temperature a lot cooler, so that bean's going to grow even better. Mm-hmm. So, like right now, my backyard looks like a mess. It looks like half grass, half beans, and everyone's like, "You know what you're doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know what I'm doing." Wait a couple more weeks. When it gets up to that, 8 to 10 inches high, hit it with the Roundup. All that grass will lay down, and those things will just take off. Another thing I like to do is we spray that Deer Grow, the Plot Boost. What's crazy is you can actually mix in the Deer Grow Plot Boost with Roundup, mix them both right in my sprayer, and it's going to fertilize the beans and it'll kill all the weeds. It's nuts that you can do both in one spray.
No, I really like that Plot Boost. It was the first time I used it last year. It's basically like a liquid nitrogen. I sprayed it on all my plots, and I had the best food plots I've ever had.
Dude, it's nuts.
It was amazing. I can't wait to use a plot start this year. I know that's going to give them even more of a jump and a boost getting going. That's kind of more of a liquid lime. It just works a heck of a lot faster than your pelletized lime does. So definitely take a look into that kind of stuff. But I love it. I'll be spraying all my food plots with it. Yeah,
it's awesome. That Deer Grow stuff's awesome. This is our second year using it. Anything that I sprayed the boost on last year, like my beans were like 10 or 12 inches high, and they just shot right up to like 2.5 feet. I was like, holy crap, dude, just instantly. Like, I'm talking in 4 days. They doubled, if not tripled in height. So that dose of nitrogen is just key, man. Getting it on there, and it works on every type of food plot. It doesn't matter if it's clover or turnips or radishes or whatever the heck it is you're planting. It doesn't matter. If you put it on there, it's going to grow.
Yep, it works on everything. And honestly, before I used to fertilize my plots twice a year, no matter what. Clover plots even more than that. I didn't have to fertilize at all. Just one spray of the plot boost, and I was good to go for the rest of the year.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. This stuff works good. And yeah, planting food plots is just a huge part of deer hunting, man. I've learned to like the habitat side of deer hunting just as much, if not more, than deer hunting lately. I just get so geeked out and obsessed with planting food plots and picking the shapes of like how I want it to be and how I want to lay it out and where I want to put the blind or how I'm going to access it, or the food plot architecture you hear Mark Drury and these guys talk about that was way over my head 3 years ago, and now I'm starting to get it a little bit. At my farm last year, I planted 4.5 acres of soybeans and another acre of turnips, and I'm starting to get it figured out now.
Dude, it's a lot of fun. And one of the things to me you can laugh at is when I get a trail camera picture of a deer and it's got a huge green leaf that I planted in its mouth. Like, I just feel good. Like, hey, I put that there for you. It's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of time, a lot of having the right equipment, but it definitely pays off.
It does, man.
One big thing with food plots, and we don't want to jump too far ahead, how really do you work on your access to your food plots, and how do you hunt your food plots?
How do I?
Yeah.
Well, repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Now, planting food plots is only the first step. Now, everyone thinks, oh, I can plant a food plot and just go hang a stand on it. I'm going to kill a big deer. That's not always the case. Food plots, along with doing the right steps and having the right soil, making sure everything is going right and it grows right, you need to have a very good game plan on how you're going to access and get out of that food plot without spooking all your deer, either kicking them off of it or kicking them off in the dark. So you need to have very good access to get into those plots.
Exactly. So what I like to do is I like to set my property up to where the deer are always going to bed the furthest away from me as possible, to where my food is in the middle and my access is to this side. So it's going to go access, food, bed. At any point possible, that's how I'm going to want to set it up. That way I'm accessing and I'm looking at the food, and where they're coming from is even further. That's the way I ideally like to set things up in any way possible. And, even better, I've done Egyptian wheat and stuff like that to build some screens. So when you're slipping out of the truck, you're slipping out there, you have some Egyptian wheat, you have some coverage, you can slip up, get in the blind, sitting there. And another thing is obviously setting it up for, you can Google your predominant wind for your area, what your natural wind's going to be most of the time. Also, you can jump on Weather Underground, go back an entire year and look at the weathers. What was the wind direction most commonly in my area? Like mine's like a lot of norths. Northeast is really, really weird, but north and northeast. And then obviously the first south after a bunch of norths is one of my favorite winds to hunt. But I'll actually have a couple different spots I can hunt depending on the wind. But either way, my access is good because my bedding and my food is out in front of me. So it doesn't matter which side of the farm I'm hunting because the wind's going to be blowing at my truck. So setting that whole food plot up and the food plot architecture the way that I set it up, I can sneak out, I can hunt it. It allows me to hunt it much more frequently because the wind's constantly blowing, back at me. Like you were saying, watching the deer eat and stuff. When I planted all those beans last year, 4.5 acres of beans, my very first go-in was like October 5th or 6th or something last year. Climbed up in the soft shell redneck blind and watched all these bucks. I think I seen 5 bucks that day, 5 or 6 bucks. They all just piled out and started hammering all these beans. I'm sitting here downwind. Their wind's hitting me. None of them are looking at me. And you're like, dude, I did this. I planted these beans. I put this blind right here. I watched those deer come out of right where I knew they were going to come out of. 8 in front of me. They left. I got down. I don't think I spooked anything, but it feels good when you can set it up the way that you want to set it up.
That is a big piece of what we're talking about here is the food plot architecture and strategies, because doing these is a lot of work, a lot of time. It's hot out during the summer. These are not the funnest thing to be doing during July and August. So you need to make sure that you have a great way to access that plot and to get out of that plot without blowing all your deer out of it. Because as soon as you blow them out a couple times, they're not all coming back. You're going to see less and less deer every time you sit it.
Yep.
And again, you put so much time and money into these plots. You want them to be so beneficial. So that way you just really want to make sure that you're setting everything up right from the start to the finish. Don't just go out and, hey, this is an open area in the timber, I'm just going to till it up and plant it.
Right.
Because honestly, that's probably not going to help you all that much. You really need to think about your strategy of getting in, getting out, how you can get these plots, get the seed in the ground without truly blowing all your deer out.
Yeah, one thing I really like to do, it's pretty important to me, is when I'm picking a food plot, let's just say you own a 10-acre tract or 20-acre tract and you have one spot for a food plot. You're going to plant a turnip plot. You're going to go in July. You're going to spray it. You're going to plant it first week of August. Where you put your tree stand is so critical, and I would always put it on the side that you don't have to walk across your plot.
Yep.
So many people are like, I want to be in the back of my property because it's better back there. Well, you being 20 or 30 yards closer to where the deer come from, they have to pass you to get to eat. You don't want the deer to pass you to get there.
Right.
So if you can be on this side of it, let them come out and eat, you're downwind, way better. So if you got, that's just one tip I would say. If you're going to plant a food plot, make sure you're on this side of it. Does that make sense?
That's one thing I've noticed too is when I first started planting food plots, the first thing I did after the seed was in the ground was I hung a tree stand right in the first tree that's as close to the food plot as possible.
Yeah.
And I've learned nowadays that it's better to hunt off your food plots.
Yep.
Hunt 50 yards, 75 yards off your plots. That way you can let the deer get comfortable. They're always going to keep going there. You can get them more of a pattern going there nightly or every other night. But then hunt where you can get out of your stand and get out without blowing any of those deer off your food plot. You're just going to continue having more success the better your access is. And again, like I said, I don't hunt on my food plots anymore. I hunt off them, but I try to catch those deer going to them.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty hot topic in the habitat world that food plots can help you so much for attracting deer, but they also hurt you so much for hunting, because if you hunt right on that food plot, you're educating every deer, not most of your deer, every deer that steps foot on it, you're educating. So you have to be 10 times more careful with food plots than without food plots.
Yep.
Because you're basically taking your deer that are all moving natural, and you're taking that movement and you're confining it into one area that you're going to be sitting on. So you will educate every deer in there. So it's so important, like you said, even bouncing 50 yards, 70 yards away from that plot, just let them move natural to that food plot. There's a lot, less likelihood of you educating every single deer if they're just a few poking by your stand.
That was honestly probably the biggest thing I did wrong last year. Was I had the best food plots I've ever had in Kentucky, and they were so lush and so beautiful, I just wanted to sit on them.
Yeah.
So my first couple sits down there during the rut, I was sitting on the edge of the plot. Now my access in and out was great.
Yep.
But I was still too close to it.
Yeah.
I should have been off of it another 30, 40 yards, and I think I would have had a much better luck. Once I got back off of it, that's when I really started seeing a lot more deer during daylight.
Yeah, I believe it. And there is a little cheat code around that, which we're not at that level yet, but these guys that have hard shell blinds and they can be totally sealed and scent free, sure, walk across your plot, climb up in a hard shell and sit.
Right.
You can get away with it. But we're probably in like a hang and bang situation, or, a tree stand that just got hung, and we might hunt it once or twice that whole year.
Yep.
So you want to hunt it in the most ideal conditions that you can, like the right wind, a cold front, that first south wind or whatever it's going to be. That's when you're going to slip in there. And when you slip into that stand, you want it set up for that wind and ready to go.
Yep, exactly. Again, these food plots take a lot of thought. It's not just about getting seed in the ground, getting something to grow. There's a lot more to it, and the more you can sit back and kind of strategize these ideas out, the better luck you're going to have. And like Tyler said, once you plant them and if you have a stand very close to it, you want to make sure your first, second time in, you're probably going to get the job done, because you're just going to keep seeing less and less deer every time you go in there. And that is a big thing too. Like I said, I don't really hunt on my food plots, but if I have the ability to hang a mobile stand in multiple spots around that food plot, I'm going to do it, because I can trick those deer. I can hunt on the one side one day, next time I can get on the other side the next day. If I can fool those deer, I'll do that. But if I don't have that option, and maybe I only have one good tree on that food plot, I'm probably not going to hang in it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hang off of it and try to catch those deer slipping in and out.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. What's something that's just like totally off the wall that you've done that's either worked or failed, food plot?
I had one that I thought was going to work and be dynamite. I had a little honey hole food plot right tucked up next to a buck bedding area, and I've always wanted to plant radishes. This was a couple years ago, and so I'm like, all right, I'm going in and plant some radishes. So I planted some radishes in this awesome little quarter-acre food plot, and they grew amazing according to the cameras. They got about 1.5 feet tall, and 2 weeks before the season started, all the deer wiped them out.
Oh, they're all gone?
Yeah, I went back in there to check the camera, and there was nothing but stems. And at first, when I walked in, it was all dirt. I'm like, wow, this stuff didn't even grow. And then when I looked further, I saw all the stems. And then when I checked the cameras, I saw they grew great. but then all the deer wiped it out before I even got the chance to hunt them.
Dang, dude.
So there was a lot of work and effort. Knowing next year, just had to make that food plot a little bit bigger. Knowing that if those deer can wipe a food plot out that fast, you need more food.
Yep.
So going to next year, I knew I had to expand my food plots and make them much bigger.
Exactly. That's a good way to judge how much food you need. Your first year, you really never know. And honestly, it'll take a year or two for deer to like find it sometimes. What they'll do is, especially these mature bucks during the rut, there's a lot of bucks that cruise. And let's just say a buck's dog and a doe comes running across your piece, never been on your piece before, runs across his food plot. Just because he didn't stop or just because he didn't eat doesn't mean he didn't just go, ooh, there's a lot of food here. Mental bookmark, late season, I'm going to try to check this food plot and see if there's some food in it. So that's something a lot of bucks will do. A lot of deer in general. It doesn't matter, like I said, if they stopped and ate in it or not. Just walking across it, they put that mental bookmark in.
Which that's a huge key I meant to bring up earlier. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to plant food plot. These deer are going to come here before dark and they're going to eat here all night long.
No way.
No, that's not what they're doing.
No.
They're not destination food sources. These deer are still traveling to go somewhere else, but you want to plant these plots. So once they get out of their bed, they slowly come through that food plot, browsing or just slowly walking through, like Tyler said.
Yeah.
But they're coming through there. You're just narrowing down another portion of land where they can go. Your plot's not to be there to feed this deer every day of its life. It's just to give them a quick bite before they move on to their destination food source, normally a big cornfield, bean field, any type of field like that.
Exactly. And honestly, planting your food plots in like weird shapes instead of just doing like a big circle or something, doing some like long strips or, multiple long strips, a kill plot, a couple 100 yards, another kill plot. I mean, I wouldn't plant them too small, but multiple plots. Anything you can do to literally hit the brakes on that deer, to just keep him on your land a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to eat a little bit here on some clover. He's going to go, chew on some woody browse coming through the woods. He might hit that turn-up plot, and like you said, ultimately they're going to end up at a destination food source, which is in the evening most likely, out in a big ag field or, something like that. So if you create these food plots or just these little kill plots, food plots on your property, those deer are going to the big ag fields, but before they're going to the big ag fields, they're going to be on your food plots. So that's basically what you're trying to do is get them in while they're staging before they're going out to eat.
And that's another great point. If you're just a bow hunting only guy like myself, plant those food plots where as soon as they step into it, you have a shot. Even like I like to keep my food plots where as soon as they're in it, they're within 60 yards.
Yep.
So they don't have to move far, and I can be able to fling an arrow at them.
Yeah.
So that's another key. Don't plant huge 10-acre food plots because just like a cornfield or a bean field, that deer's going to come out and go in the center, and you're going to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs, not being able to do anything. So try to keep those deer tucked in. If you can do a different type of shape, maybe a rectangle or a triangle, something weird, but to keep them into your bow range every time. So as soon as they come out, you can get a shot at them.
That hits a little bit too close to home because I sound like a broken record saying it over and over again, but that's what happened to me last year with Loki doing 4.5 acres, 4 acres of beans. And my thought process was I didn't want to run out of beans. You know what I mean? Because the year before, one of my failures was I didn't plant enough and they ate them, they were gone. So last year, I'm like, all right, I really want a chance to kill this buck. I'm doing a lot of food plots. So I did 4 acres of beans. And, my issue was I had enough food, but my biggest issue is when Loki come out, he's out of bow range. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. And that's something differently I'm doing this year is all my beans are going to go all the way out to, like you said, 60 yards, 50, 60 yards. And then as soon as it's out of bow range, I want to switch over to like corn or Egyptian wheat, probably corn actually. So pretty much everything that's going to be sitting in front of me, 70 yards, 60 yards, everything in front of me is damn near bow range, and anything further is going to be like tall food, Egyptian wheat, corn, that type of stuff. So you can actually like shape these food plots to, like you said, if he steps onto it, boom, he's in bow range. Because last year Loki stepped onto it where I planted, and he was not in bow range, and that's really frustrating.
Yep.
So don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes, and you don't shrink up your food plots. Don't sacrifice any food. If you got land that you want to put food on, put food, but like put corn. When they step out of that corn and step onto those soybeans to start eating, you can put them in bow range.
Switchgrass is key too. You put that around the edges. They love it for bedding. One thing I've done when I've had bigger food plots is you almost divide them up. Say you have a big 10-acre square food plot. Take that and cut into sections with some switchgrass. Make like a big T in the center so there's 4 separate fields, or make it up so that way during the rut, when that buck comes in to check that field, he can't see the whole thing. He has to run to each section to see if there's any does in it.
Yeah.
That's going to get him moving around even more and a better chance he's going to come by you for your shot.
Exactly. You know, there's a lot of different ways you could do a pinch point in a food plot. I mean, all the way down to like a snow fence or, you know, anything. Literally, I've seen guys do crazy stuff like that wood snow fence. Deer don't want to jump it because they can't see it, so they'll go around it.
Right.
I mean, literally, let's just say there's a spot that's 100 yards. That's food plot. Well, plant it all, plant 4 acres, run a snow fence right down the center of that thing, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to try to, you know, pinch and go around it. Put them right up into bow range. You can do that with pine trees. You can do that with switchgrass, like you said. Plant corn right down the center of your food plot. So when that buck's coming in checking does, he has to cross through that corn to poke his head on the other side to see if there's does on that other side. So there's 1,000,010 things that you could do to set yourself up to get those deer in range.
Yeah, when people say food plots, you don't just have to go plant clover or turnips or radishes, something like that. You can do any different thing to put those deer right into your lap.
Yep. Heck yeah, man. I was going to ask you something. I already forgot.
It's about time for another beer, and we might need a bathroom break pretty soon.
Yeah, no kidding, man. What are you saying, Nick? 30 minutes in? All right. Well, I guess we can wrap this one up. 30 minutes. Did some little tips and tricks on some food plots. Hopefully this helped you guys. I know it was kind of all over the place, half rant, half food plot stuff, half whatever, but hopefully there was some value here and a little bit of information that helps you guys out. But
yeah, we really try to give you just our tips and things that we've learned over the past 10, 12 years or longer doing food plots. So hopefully these things help you out this fall and can help you put another big buck on the wall.
Definitely. If you guys have any other questions regarding food plots, strategies, that type of stuff, we're going to do a lot more of these video casts this year. So this is just something we wanted to dip our beak and get our feet wet and just kind of talk about it and see where it goes. But like I said, if you have any other questions, send us a message and drop a comment in here, and we'll talk about it over the next couple weeks. And we got a little bit of time before you got to do any food plots. So, yeah.
We got some time, but it's season's going to be here before we know it. And it's going to be time to start the segment series again.
Well, cool, man. We'll kick it off there, and I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to watch a video. And
yep. Have a good one. Stay safe, everyone.